Thanks to the American Red Cross, British girls who've married servicemen from the States can learn to cope with life in their new homeland before crossing the Atlantic. With an odd husband or two giving moral support, they get the lowdown on the sort of food they'll find in the shops on the other side. The instructor, Mrs. Baker of Indiana, explains how to turn pounds and shillings into dollars and cents. Now the girls will feel quite at home shopping in the States, once they get used to not having to queue. They'll know how to dress, too. Part of the lesson is a demonstration of the right street outfit, so that they'll be able to keep up with the American Joneses. When the wives have talked themselves out on the subject of clothes, the lesson comes down again to a level their husbands can understand. Sergeant and Mrs. Schwartz of Brooklyn compare notes with Sergeant and Mrs. Paula of Pennsylvania on the positions of their hometowns. And then comes the most important part of the course, learning how to feed the brute. If Mrs. G.I. wants to hold her man, she must know how to brew the coffee he's used to. Many marriages have come unstuck on a point like that. Mrs. Colburn from Georgia stands by to give help and advice while one of the British brides, Mrs. Frank Pellow, tries her hand at making waffles. Nothing to it so far, but she won't really be able to call herself an American citizen until she can get the stuff safely into the waffle iron. She'll stir it a bit more while she gets ready to take the plunge. Now comes the tricky moment. If the mixing was done right, and if the iron isn't too hot or too cold, and if she doesn't put in too much, she'll soon hear those words that are music in a wife's ear. No kidding, these are just like Mom makes. While the wives wait to see how those waffles turn out, they're shown the state register and asked to sign their names. They'll soon settle down in their new home, thanks to this bright idea of Mrs. de Paula, Red Cross Director of Home Hospitality.
The purpose of the American Red Cross in establishing brides' hours throughout the United Kingdom is twofold. Primarily, it is to teach the young women something of the country that they are going to. The other purpose is to make them realize their importance as Britain's ambassadors to the United States. They are already assured that America, one nation of many peoples, welcomes them gladly into the community.